She wakes in darkness, disoriented and exhausted. The room smells like smoke, leather, and winter air. The mattress beneath her is too soft, the silence too deep. She doesn't know where she is, but for the first time in years, she feels safe. She falls back asleep. When the Alpha King enters his chamber and finds a woman in his bed, fury should follow. Punishment, dismissal. She's a servant, a nobody. She has no right to be there. But he doesn't call the guards. He doesn't wake her. He stops and watches. The rise and fall of her breathing, the way her hand curls into his sheets as if anchoring herself, the faint crease between her brows, even in rest. And in that moment, something inside him breaks open. Something ancient, something he never expected, something that will change everything. Because by morning, the whispers will start, the threats will come, and powerful forces will try to tear her away from him. But what awakened in that silent chamber, in those stolen moments of watching her sleep, cannot be put back. The court will demand answers, and he will make a choice that shocks them all. Sarah Bonner had been awake for 19 hours straight. Her feet ached, her shoulders burned, her vision blurred at the edges like watercolor paint bleeding into white paper. She'd been sent to the Alpha King's residence 3 days ago to assist Lydia Finch with preparations for the upcoming council meeting, but Lydia had a habit of forgetting Sarah existed until the moment she needed something impossible done immediately. Tonight, that impossible thing had been retrieving a specific leather-bound ledger from somewhere in the eastern wing. Lydia's directions had been vague at best. Third corridor past the tapestry. Or was it the fourth, left at the stone archway? Or right? Sarah had gotten lost. The hallways in this part of the residence were different from the servants' quarters. Here, the floors were polished black stone that reflected the torchlight like dark water. The air smelled of cedar and something else. Something wild and clean that made her pulse quicken without understanding why. She should turn back. She knew that. But her legs trembled with exhaustion, and the thought of retracing her steps through those endless corridors made something in her chest tighten with despair. One more corner, she told herself. Just one more, and then she'd give up and face Lydia's displeasure in the morning. The door she found was different from the others. Heavier, made of dark wood carved with symbols she didn't recognize. It stood slightly ajar, and through the gap, she could see the warm glow of a dying fire. Sarah's hand pressed against the wood before she could stop herself. The door swung open silently. The chamber beyond stole her breath. It was masculine in every detail. Dark leather chairs positioned near the fireplace. A massive desk covered in maps and sealed letters. Weapons mounted on the walls with careful precision. And dominating the space, a bed so large it could have fit 4 people comfortably. The sheets were deep charcoal gray. The pillows looked untouched. Everything about the room radiated power and control and absolute authority. Sarah knew she should leave. Every instinct screamed at her to back away slowly and pretend she'd never seen this place. But her body had reached its limit. Her knees buckled slightly, and she found herself moving toward the bed as if pulled by invisible threads. Just for a moment. Just to sit down. Just to close her eyes for 1 minute before she dragged herself back through those corridors. The mattress was softer than anything she'd ever touched. She sank into it like falling through clouds. The pillow cradled her head perfectly. The sheets smelled like smoke and leather and winter air. And underneath it all, something else. Something that made her entire body relax in a way it hadn't in years. Safe. She felt safe. Her eyes drifted closed. Just for a moment, she promised herself. Just for 1 moment. Alpha King Louis Voss returned to his chambers 2 hours later. The council meeting had run long, filled with posturing and political maneuvering that left him cold and irritated. Clyde Cross had spent 30 minutes arguing about border patrols. Rufus McGraw had questioned every decision Louis made regarding the Eastern Territories. Emmett Turlow had smiled his politician's smile and said nothing useful at all. Louis was done with all of them. He wanted silence. He wanted solitude. He wanted to sit in his own space and breathe air that didn't reek of ambition and barely concealed challenges to his authority. He pushed open his chamber door and stepped inside. then stopped. Every muscle in his body locked. His wolf surged forward in his mind, alert and focused with predatory intensity. There was someone in his bed. Louis moved forward silently, his footsteps making no sound on the stone floor. His hand didn't reach for a weapon. Whatever this was, whoever had dared enter his private chambers, his wolf didn't perceive them as a threat. That alone was strange enough to make him cautious. He stopped at the foot of the bed and looked down at the intruder. A woman. She lay on her side, curled slightly inward with one hand tucked beneath her cheek and the other clutching the edge of the sheet. Her dark hair had come loose from whatever pins had held it, falling across the pillow in waves that caught the firelight. She wore a simple gray dress, practical and worn at the edges. A servant's clothing. She was deeply asleep. Louis should have been furious. He should have called the guards, should have demanded answers, punishment, an explanation for this unprecedented breach of his privacy. Instead, he stood there and watched her breathe. In, out, in, out. Her chest rose and fell in a rhythm that seemed to sync with his own heartbeat. He could see the faint shadows beneath her eyes, the slight crease between her brows that spoke of exhaustion even in sleep. Her lips were parted just slightly, and he could hear the soft sound of her breathing in the quiet room. Something shifted in his chest. Not desire, though he was aware of her in that way too, aware of the curve of her shoulder and the elegant line of her throat. But this was something else, something deeper and more dangerous. Recognition. His wolf pressed forward, utterly focused on the woman in his bed. Watching, waiting, guarding. Louis circled the bed slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. He should wake her. He should demand to know how she'd gotten past his guards, why she'd chosen his chamber, what she'd been looking for. But her hand tightened in the sheet as he moved, and he saw her whole body relax deeper into the mattress, saw the tension in her shoulders ease, saw her breathing slow into something peaceful and unguarded. She felt safe here, in his bed, in his space, in the one place where he allowed no one. She felt safe. The realization hit him like a physical blow. His hand moved without conscious thought, reaching toward her face, stopping just before his fingers could touch her cheek. Heat radiated from her skin. Her scent filled his lungs. Something soft and warm that had nothing to do with perfume or artifice. Just her. Just this exhausted woman who'd collapsed in his bed and found the peace he himself couldn't seem to reach anymore. Louis pulled his hand back, slowly, carefully. Then he moved to the chair beside the fireplace and sat down, his eyes never leaving her. He would wait. He would watch. And when she woke, he would get his answers. But for now, in this stolen moment of quiet, he let himself simply observe her. The way her fingers twitched slightly in sleep, the way her breathing changed, deepening, then quickening, then slowing again. The way she seemed to curl toward his side of the bed, as if seeking something even in unconsciousness. The fire burned lower. The room grew cooler. Louis remained exactly where he was. He had ruled territories, commanded armies, negotiated treaties, and crushed rebellions, and maintained absolute control over every aspect of his life and his kingdom. But this stillness, this quiet watching, this need to guard her sleep as if it were something precious and fragile, unraveled him completely. Sarah woke slowly, dragged up from the deepest sleep she'd had in years. Warmth surrounded her, softness cradled her, and underneath it all, that scent that made her entire body relax into the mattress. Her eyes opened to firelight and shadows. For one perfect moment, she didn't remember where she was, didn't remember the terror of being lost or the exhaustion that had driven her here. She only knew that she felt rested, protected, at peace. Then reality crashed back in. She bolted upright, her heart slamming against her ribs. The room spun, her hands clutched at the sheets, and she looked around wildly, trying to understand where she was and how she'd gotten here and what she'd done. The chamber was empty. No, not empty. A figure sat in the chair beside the fireplace, utterly still, watching her with eyes that caught the light like molten gold. Sarah's breath stopped. She knew that face. Everyone in the kingdom knew that face. It appeared on coins and banners and in the nightmares of anyone foolish enough to challenge his rule. Alpha King Louis Voss, and she was in his bed. Her voice came out as a broken whisper. She tried again. I didn't. I was looking for, I must have. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched her with an intensity that made her skin prickle with awareness. Sarah scrambled backward off the bed, her legs tangling in her dress. She hit the floor hard, barely managing to keep from crying out. She pushed herself to her feet, swaying, her entire body shaking. "Forgive me," she gasped. "Please, I didn't mean I was lost. I was so tired, I didn't know where I was." "What is your name?" His voice was low, controlled. It cut through her panic like a blade through water. Sarah's throat closed. She had to force the words out. Sarah Bonner. I'm here to assist Lydia Finch. I got lost. I didn't realize I never would have. Please, I'm so sorry." "Sarah." He said her name like he was tasting it, testing it. His eyes never left her face. "You fell asleep in my bed." It wasn't a question. Sarah nodded anyway, her hands twisting in her dress. She waited for the anger, the punishment, the dismissal that would end her position here and leave her with nothing. Instead, Louis stood. The movement was fluid and controlled, like a wolf rising from rest. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides, stopping just close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "How long?" he asked. Sarah's mind went blank. What? How long have you been awake?" "I don't 19 hours? Maybe 20? I lost track." Something flickered in his expression. Not anger, something else, something she couldn't read. "Go," he said quietly. "Return to your quarters. Sleep. Tomorrow you will report to Harlan McGraw. He'll reassign you." Sarah's heart sank. Reassignment meant disgrace. Meant everyone would know she'd failed somehow, made some terrible mistake that couldn't be overlooked. But she deserved it. She'd violated the Alpha King's private space. She'd fallen asleep in his bed. For Mercy's sake. She was lucky he wasn't having her thrown out entirely. "Yes, Alpha King," she whispered. She backed toward the door, unable to stop herself from watching him. Waiting for him to change his mind, to call the guards, to demand a harsher punishment. He remained exactly where he stood, his eyes locked on hers until she reached the door. "Sarah." She froze, her hand on the doorframe. "The next time you're that exhausted," he said, his voice dropping lower, "tell someone, before you collapse." It wasn't anger in his tone. It was something that sounded almost like concern, which made no sense at all. Sarah fled before she could think too hard about it. Behind her, in the quiet chamber, Louis stood alone and pressed his hand against his chest. His heart pounded, his wolf paced restlessly, and the scent of her lingered in his sheets, in his space, in his lungs. He had ruled territories, commanded wars, but this woman, this exhausted servant who'd fallen asleep in his bed, had awakened something he'd never expected to feel, and he had no idea what to do about it. "Hey, quick question, how are you feeling right now? Thank you so much for being here. It really means the world to me." If this story of Sarah, the exhausted servant who accidentally fell asleep in the wrong bed, who was supposed to be invisible but was seen by the one man who couldn't look away, who awakened something in an Alpha King that he never expected to feel, if their story moved you, please hit that subscribe button for Ariel Romance Library, smash the like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. Alright, thank you. Now let's get back to it. Louis didn't sleep that night. He sat in the chair beside his bed, staring at the rumpled sheets where Sarah had lain. Her scent still clung to the fabric, faint but undeniable. Every time he tried to focus on something else, on the council meeting or the border disputes, or the 100 other matters demanding his attention, his mind dragged him back to that moment, her face, peaceful in sleep. Her breathing, slow and steady. The way she'd curled toward his side of the bed as if seeking shelter. The way his entire body had responded to her presence with a recognition that went beyond reason or control. His wolf had never reacted to anyone like that. Not in all his years. Not even during the heat seasons, when unmated females made their interest obvious, and his body responded with biological inevitability. This was different. This was instinct layered over instinct, need wrapped around protection, desire fused with something far more dangerous. Bond. The word whispered through his mind like smoke. He rejected it immediately. Bonds were rare. Bonds were sacred. Bonds didn't happen because an exhausted servant accidentally fell asleep in the wrong bed, except his wolf didn't care about logic. His wolf only knew that she'd been there, in their space, and every cell in his body had screamed mine with a certainty that terrified him. Louis stood abruptly and moved to his desk. Work. He needed work. Something concrete and actionable that didn't involve dissecting feelings he shouldn't be having. But when he tried to read the reports in front of him, he saw her face instead. The shadows under her eyes, the worn edges of her dress, the way she'd apologized as if expecting him to destroy her for a mistake made in exhaustion. He'd sent servants away for far less. He'd dismissed people from his service for merely annoying him. But when he'd looked at Sarah, terror-bright and shaking, all he'd wanted was to pull her close and promise her she was safe, which was absurd, impossible, and completely unacceptable. The sun rose slowly, painting his chamber in shades of gold and amber. Louis finally stood and dressed for the day, choosing his clothing with methodical care. He had a meeting with his advisors, then training with the guard, then an audience with petitioners. None of it required him to think about a woman named Sarah Bonner. He absolutely would not think about Sarah Bonner. "You look terrible." Rufus McGraw leaned against the training yard fence, his arms crossed over his broad chest. He was Louis's oldest friend, which gave him permission to speak with a bluntness that would get anyone else exiled. Louis landed another blow on the training dummy, wood splintering under his fist. "I didn't ask for your opinion on my appearance." "Didn't sleep?" "I slept fine." "You're a terrible liar." Rufus pushed off the fence and circled closer, his sharp eyes taking in details Louis would have preferred to keep hidden. "Something happened at the council meeting?" "Nothing worth discussing." "So it's woman trouble." Louis's fist connected with the dummy so hard the entire post shook. Rufus whistled low. "Definitely woman trouble. Anyone I know?" "There is no woman." "Right. Which is why you've destroyed 3 training dummies in the past hour and look like you haven't slept in a week." Rufus grabbed a practice sword and tossed another to Louis. "Come on, work it out properly." They fell into the familiar rhythm of combat, blade meeting blade in a dance they'd perfected over decades. Louis let his body move on instinct, using the physical exertion to burn away the restless energy crawling under his skin. It didn't work. Nothing worked. Because underneath the clash of steel and the burn of his muscles, he could still smell her, could still see her curled in his bed, peaceful and unguarded in a way that made something in his chest ache. "There," Rufus said, stepping back and lowering his blade. "You're distracted. That's the 3rd opening you've left me." Louis didn't lower his weapon. Again. "Louis." Again. They went through another round, then another. By the time they stopped, both were breathing hard and covered in sweat. Rufus studied him with the kind of knowing look that made Louis want to hit something again. "Whatever this is," Rufus said carefully, "you should deal with it before it becomes a problem." "It's not a problem. Everything's a problem when it involves the Alpha King." Rufus wiped his blade clean and set it aside. "The council's watching you closer these days, especially Clyde Cross. He's looking for weaknesses." Louis knew that. He'd known it for months. The Cross family wanted more power, more influence, and they'd jump at any opportunity to undermine his authority, which was exactly why he couldn't afford distractions, especially not distractions that involved exhausted servants with dark hair and eyes that had looked at him with such raw, honest fear. "I'm handling it," Louis said shortly. Rufus raised an eyebrow but didn't push. "If you say so. But for what it's worth, I haven't seen you this unsettled in years. Might be worth examining why." He left before Louis could respond, which was probably for the best. Because Louis didn't have an answer that wouldn't sound insane. Sarah spent the morning in a state of quiet terror, waiting for the summons that never came. She'd reported to Harlan McGraw as instructed, and he'd reassigned her to work under Miranda Bonner in the kitchens. A demotion, certainly, but not the complete disgrace she'd been bracing for. Miranda was kind in a no-nonsense way, putting Sarah to work immediately peeling vegetables and preparing bread. The work was mindless and exhausting, which suited Sarah perfectly. It kept her hands busy and her mind occupied with something other than the memory of Gold Eyes watching her in the darkness. She'd violated the Alpha King's privacy. She'd fallen asleep in his bed. By all rights, she should have been dismissed entirely, thrown out of the residence with nothing but the clothes on her back. Instead, he'd asked how long she'd been awake. He'd told her to sleep. He'd reassigned her rather than destroyed her. It made no sense. None of it made sense. "You all right, girl?" Sarah looked up to find Miranda watching her with concerned eyes. She realized she'd been peeling the same potato for the past 5 minutes, staring into nothing. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Just tired." "Well, you look half dead. When's the last time you slept properly?" Sarah thought about the Alpha King's bed, soft and warm and smelling like safety, and felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Last night. I slept last night," Miranda snorted. "Not near enough, by the look of you. Finish those potatoes, then go rest. I won't have you collapsing in my kitchen." "I'm fine, really. That wasn't a suggestion." Sarah nodded and bent back to her work, grateful to have a task that required no thought. But her mind kept drifting back to that chamber, to the moment she'd woken and found him watching her with an intensity that had made her skin prickle and her pulse race. He could have hurt her, could have punished her, could have done anything he wanted, and she would have had no recourse at all. Instead, he'd asked if she was tired. It didn't make sense. Powerful men didn't show concern for exhausted servants. They didn't offer reassignments instead of punishment. They certainly didn't watch someone sleep with that kind of focused attention, as if every breath she took mattered. Sarah's hands stilled on the potato. She remembered that moment more clearly now. The way his hand had moved toward her face and then stopped. The way he'd sat in that chair, utterly still, as if he couldn't look away, as if she was something precious instead of disposable. The knife slipped. Sarah yelped as blood welled from her thumb, bright and sudden. Miranda was beside her in an instant, wrapping the wound in clean cloth and scolding her for not paying attention. But Sarah barely heard her, because underneath the sting of the cut and Miranda's worried fussing, she could still feel the weight of the Alpha King's gaze on her skin. She could still smell cedar and smoke and winter air, and despite every logical reason to be terrified, some small, foolish part of her wanted to go back to that chamber, wanted to curl up in those sheets again and feel that impossible sense of safety she'd never known before, which was absurd, dangerous, and completely unacceptable. Sarah pushed the thought away and focused on finishing her work, ignoring the way her heart beat faster every time footsteps echoed in the corridor beyond the kitchen door. Louis made it until mid-afternoon before he found himself walking toward the kitchens. He told himself he was simply making his rounds, checking on the staff, ensuring everything ran smoothly. He was a terrible liar, even to himself. The kitchens were warm and busy, filled with the clatter of pots and the smell of baking bread. Servants moved efficiently through the space, and several looked up in surprise when they saw him. They bowed quickly, murmuring greetings he barely acknowledged. His eyes scanned the room until they found what they were looking for. Sarah stood at a long wooden table, her hands busy with some task he couldn't see from this angle. Her hair was pulled back more severely than it had been last night, but a few strands had escaped to curl around her face. She wore a different dress, just as plain, just as worn. She looked exhausted still, but she also looked focused, present. Nothing like the terrified woman who'd fled his chamber a few hours ago. Louis watched her for longer than he should have, watched the efficient movements of her hands, watched the way she tilted her head slightly when Miranda Bonner spoke to her, watched the small smile that touched her lips at something the other woman said. Then Sarah looked up. Their eyes met across the busy kitchen. The world narrowed to just that connection. Her eyes widened, her lips parted, her hands stilled in whatever task they'd been doing. Louis felt the impact of that look like a physical blow. Heat surged through him, followed immediately by that same territorial pull he'd felt last night. "Mine," his wolf growled. "Ours. Keep." He should look away. should leave before anyone noticed, his attention focused so intently on a single servant. Instead, he held her gaze, watching the pulse jump in her throat, watching the color rise in her cheeks, watching her entire body respond to his presence in a way that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with the same recognition that was tearing him apart. She felt it too. She had to. The way her breathing changed, quick and shallow. The way her fingers tightened on the edge of the table. The way she couldn't seem to look away any more than he could. Alpha King. Miranda Bonner approached him, her voice carefully respectful. "Is there something you need?" The question broke the spell. Louis forced his eyes away from Sarah and focused on the older woman. "Just checking the preparations for tonight's dinner. Everything seems to be in order." "Yes, sir. We'll be ready." He should leave now. Should walk away and never come back to the kitchens. Should forget about the exhausted servant who'd accidentally fallen asleep in his bed and awakened something in him that he didn't understand. But as he turned to go, his eyes found Sarah one more time. She was still watching him, her expression a mixture of confusion and something else, something that looked almost like longing. Their gazes held for one more stolen second. Then Louis forced himself to turn and walk away, every step feeling like a betrayal of something he couldn't name. Behind him, Sarah pressed her bandaged hand against her chest and tried to slow her racing heart, wondering why the Alpha King's attention felt less like danger and more like coming home. The rumors started within 48 hours. They began as whispers, careful and quiet in the servants' quarters. The Alpha King had been seen in the kitchens. The Alpha King had been distracted during the council meeting. The Alpha King had reassigned a servant personally instead of leaving the matter to his advisors. By the third day, those whispers had grown teeth. Sarah heard them in fragments, pieces of conversations that stopped when she entered a room. She saw them in the way certain servants looked at her now, their expressions calculating or envious, or carefully neutral. "Here you got reassigned," Deborah Voss said, cornering Sarah near the linen closets. She was a cousin to some distant branch of the royal family, which gave her delusions of importance. Must have done something interesting to catch his attention. Sarah kept her face blank. "I made a mistake. I was punished for it. That's all." "Is it?" Deborah leaned closer, her voice dropping to something almost conspiratorial. "Because I heard you were found in a very interesting place. Somewhere servants aren't usually allowed." Heat crept up Sarah's neck. She forced herself to meet Deborah's eyes steadily. "I was lost. I was exhausted. Nothing more happened than that." "Of course not." Deborah's smile was all sharp edges. "But you understand how it looks, don't you? Especially now that he keeps noticing you." Sarah's stomach dropped. "He doesn't notice me, doesn't he?" Deborah straightened, smoothing her skirts with deliberate care. "My mistake, then. I'm sure it's just coincidence that he's been to the kitchens 3 times this week. He's probably developed a sudden interest in bread making." She walked away before Sarah could respond. Leaving behind the sour taste of implications Sarah didn't want to examine too closely. Because Deborah wasn't wrong, the Alpha King had been to the kitchens, multiple times, and every single time, Sarah had felt his presence like lightning across her skin, aware of him even when her back was turned. Even when she was focused on some mindless task, their eyes had met more than once. Brief moments that stretched like honey, thick and slow and impossible to break until someone else demanded his attention, or Sarah forced herself to look away. It didn't mean anything. It couldn't mean anything. He was the Alpha King, and she was nobody. A servant. A mistake he'd chosen to overlook rather than punish, but her body didn't seem to understand that. Her pulse still jumped when she caught his scent in a corridor. Her skin still prickled with awareness when he entered a room. And at night, alone in her narrow bed in the servants' quarters, she still dreamed of soft sheets and winter air and gold eyes watching her like she mattered. Louis knew the rumors were spreading. He also knew he should stop them. A wise king would have ignored the servant girl entirely, would have let the gossip die from lack of fuel, would have focused on the actual matters that required his attention, like the increasing tension with the Cross family or the border disputes that Emmett Turlow kept bringing up in council meetings. Instead, Louis found himself restructuring Sarah's schedule. He told himself it was practical. She'd been exhausted to the point of collapse when he'd found her. Clearly, her previous assignments had been too demanding. It made sense to ensure she had reasonable hours and adequate rest. It had nothing to do with the territorial surge he felt every time he thought about her wandering the residence alone, vulnerable and unprotected. "You're being obvious," Rufus said flatly, dropping into the chair across from Louis's desk. Louis didn't look up from the report he was pretending to read. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The servant girl, Sarah Bonner. You've reassigned her, adjusted her schedule, and assigned guards to the servants' quarters for the first time in 5 years. The servants' quarters needed better security. It's a practical matter. It's idiotic is what it is." Rufus leaned forward, his expression serious now. "People are talking, Louis. And not just servants. The council's noticed. Clyde Cross asked me yesterday if you were taking a lover." Louis's hand tightened on the report, crinkling the paper. "I'm not. I know that. You know that. But it doesn't matter what's actually happening. It matters what people think is happening." Rufus paused, then added carefully, "What is happening? Because I've known you for 20 years, and I've never seen you like this." Louis set the report aside and met his friend's eyes. "I don't know. That's not reassuring. I'm aware." Louis stood and moved to the window, staring out at the training grounds below. "She fell asleep in my bed, Rufus. And when I found her there, my wolf," he trailed off, unable to articulate what had happened in that moment. "Your wolf what?" "Claimed her. Instantly. Completely. As if she'd always belonged there." Silence filled the office. When Rufus finally spoke, his voice was careful. "Are you saying she's your mate?" "I don't know. Maybe. Probably." Louis pressed his palms against the window frame. "Which is impossible. I'm supposed to take a political match. Lorena Cross has been offered. Pamela Turlow is available. Both would strengthen alliances and solidify power, and both would make you miserable. My happiness isn't the priority. The kingdom's stability is. Your kingdom needs a strong king, not a miserable one." Rufus joined him at the window. "If she's your mate, Louis, you can't ignore that. The bond won't let you. It'll destroy you both." Louis knew he was right. Mate bonds were sacred, rare, unbreakable. When they formed, they consumed everything else. Trying to fight one was like trying to stop breathing, but accepting it meant upending every plan he'd made for his future, meant facing the council's fury and his allies' disappointment, meant bringing a servant girl with no family and no power into a position that would paint a target on her back. "She's terrified of me," Louis said quietly. "Every time I'm near her, she looks like she expects me to destroy her, then show her she's wrong. And if that makes everything worse?" Rufus clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Then at least you'll know. But doing nothing isn't an option anymore. You've already drawn too much attention. Now you either commit, or you walk away entirely. Half measures will just get you both hurt." Sarah was scrubbing pots when Lydia Finch found her. "There you are." Lydia swept into the kitchen like a storm, her elegant dress completely out of place among the heat and steam. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Sarah set down her scrub brush and dried her hands, trying not to let her anxiety show. Lydia had been her previous supervisor, the one who'd sent her wandering through the residence in the first place. They hadn't spoken since Sarah's reassignment. "How can I help you?" Sarah asked carefully. "You can start by explaining what you did to end up reassigned to the kitchens." Lydia's eyes were sharp, assessing. "You were adequate at your previous duties. Mediocre but adequate. Now suddenly you're here, and the Alpha King himself arranged it." Sarah's hands twisted in her apron. "I made a mistake. I got lost. He was kind enough not to dismiss me entirely." "Kind." Lydia repeated the word like it tasted sour. "The Alpha King is many things, but kind has never been one of them. So tell me what really happened." "That is what really happened." "You're lying. Not well, but you're trying." Lydia circled closer, her voice dropping. "Listen carefully, Sarah. I don't know what game you think you're playing, but you're out of your depth. Men like the Alpha King don't notice servants unless those servants make themselves noticeable. And right now, you're very noticeable. I'm not trying to be noticed. Then you should try harder to be invisible. Because there are women here, important women with powerful families, who don't appreciate competition from someone like you. Sarah's jaw tightened. Someone like me? A nobody. A servant with no family, no connections, no value beyond your labor. Lydia's expression wasn't cruel exactly, but it wasn't kind either. It was simply factual, stating truth Sarah had lived with her entire life. If you have any sense, you'll keep your head down and stay away from places you don't belong. She swept out as dramatically as she'd entered, leaving Sarah standing alone in the steam and heat, her hands shaking slightly. The worst part was that Lydia was right. Sarah was nobody. She had no business drawing the Alpha King's attention. No business feeling this pull toward him that made her skin warm and her pulse race. She should avoid him. Should make herself invisible the way she'd always been invisible. Should go back to being the kind of servant people looked through instead of at. But when she closed her eyes, she could still feel the weight of his gaze on her skin. Could still remember the way his voice had dropped when he'd said her name. Could still smell cedar and smoke and winter air. And some foolish, dangerous part of her didn't want to be invisible anymore. The confrontation came that night. Sarah was walking back to the servants' quarters, her body aching from another long day in the kitchens, when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to find Lorena Cross blocking the corridor, flanked by Maybelle Doolin and Leona Turlo. All three women were nobility. All three wore dresses that cost more than Sarah would earn in a year. And all three were looking at her with expressions that made her stomach tighten with dread. "Sarah Bonner," Lorena said, her voice sweet as poisoned honey. "We've been wanting to talk with you." Sarah glanced around, but the corridor was empty. Most of the servants were already in their quarters for the night. She was alone with three women who had every reason to see her as a threat, and no reason to show her mercy. "Lady Cross," Sarah said carefully, "how can I help you?" "You can start by staying away from the Alpha King." The words were so direct, they left Sarah momentarily speechless. Lorena smiled at her reaction. "Did you think we wouldn't notice? The way he watches you. The way he keeps finding excuses to be wherever you are." Lorena stepped closer, and Sarah forced herself not to back away. "You may have caught his attention through some trick, but you won't keep it. You're not suitable. You're not worthy. And you're certainly not capable of being what he needs." "I haven't done anything," Sarah said, hating how her voice shook. "I don't want his attention." "Then why does he keep giving it to you?" Maybelle asked, her tone almost curious. "What did you do that night in his chamber?" Heat flooded Sarah's face. "Nothing. I fell asleep by accident. That's all. By accident." Leona laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "How convenient. And I suppose it's also by accident that he's restructured your schedule and assigned guards and keeps making excuses to see you. I can't control what he does." "No, but you can control what you do." Lorena moved even closer, close enough that Sarah could smell her expensive perfume. "Stay away from him. Keep your head down. Accept that you'll never be more than what you are. And maybe if you're smart, you'll survive this. And if I don't..." The words came out before Sarah could stop them, surprising herself as much as the three women. Lorena's expression went cold. "Then you'll learn why it's dangerous to reach above your station. One way or another." They swept past her, leaving Sarah alone in the corridor, her heart pounding and her hands clenched into fists. She should be terrified. She should take their warning and make herself invisible. Should stay as far from the Alpha King as possible and pray that his interest faded before these women made good on their implied threats. But standing there in the empty corridor, feeling the phantom weight of gold eyes on her skin, Sarah realized something that should have terrified her even more. She didn't want to stay away. She didn't want to be invisible. And despite every logical reason to be afraid, some part of her trusted that the Alpha King wouldn't let them hurt her, which was either the bravest thing she'd ever felt or the most foolish. Sarah wasn't sure which terrified her more. The council meeting started badly and got worse. Louis sat at the head of the long table, listening to Clyde Cross drone on about border security with barely concealed impatience. Normally, he could endure these meetings with detached efficiency, letting the posturing and politicking wash over him while he focused on the actual issues that mattered. Today, his mind kept drifting to the kitchens, to dark hair and exhausted eyes, and the memory of soft breathing in his quiet chamber. To Sarah, Alpha King, Clyde's voice sharpened. "Are you listening?" Louis forced his attention back to the present. "I'm listening. You're suggesting we increase patrols along the eastern border. I disagree. Our resources are better spent reinforcing the northern territories." "With respect, that's short-sighted." "With respect," Louis interrupted, his voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. "I've spent the last decade securing those borders while your family argued about jurisdiction. I know exactly where our resources are needed." Clyde's jaw tightened, but he subsided. Around the table, the other council members shifted uncomfortably. Emmett Turlow cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should discuss the matter of the upcoming alliance negotiations," Emmett said carefully. "Lady Lorena Cross has expressed continued interest." "No." The single word dropped into the silence like a stone into still water. Everyone stared at Louis. "No?" Clyde leaned forward, his expression carefully neutral but his eyes sharp. "The Cross family has been exceptionally generous in their offer. A union between our families would benefit everyone." I said no. "Might I ask why?" This from Laurent Doulin, his tone mild but his attention razor-focused. "You've been considering the match for months. What's changed?" "Everything," Louis wanted to say. "Everything changed when an exhausted servant fell asleep in my bed and my wolf claimed her before I could think to stop it. Instead, he said, 'My reasons are my own. The answer is no. This is about that servant girl.'" Clyde's voice was flat, certain. "The one you've been protecting." Louis felt every muscle in his body lock. "I would be careful with your next words, Clyde. I'm simply stating facts. You've been distracted for weeks. You've restructured schedules, assigned guards, made adjustments to your routine that benefit one specific servant." Clyde's smile was sharp. "Sarah Bonner. That is her name, isn't it?" Around the table, expressions ranged from shocked to calculating to carefully blank. Louis could practically see the pieces falling into place in their minds, the connections forming, the implications spreading like poison through water. "How I manage my household staff is none of your concern," Louis said, his voice dangerously quiet. "It becomes our concern when it affects your ability to rule, when it makes you refuse advantageous alliances and display favoritism that undermines the stability you claim to value." Clyde leaned back in his chair, relaxed now that he'd drawn blood. "We deserve to know if our king has been compromised." "Compromised." Louis let the word hang in the air. "Choose your next words very carefully, Clyde, because if you're suggesting what I think you're suggesting, there will be consequences. I'm suggesting nothing. I'm simply asking questions any concerned council member would ask." Rufus McGraw spoke up from his position near the door. "This isn't the place for this discussion." "Isn't it?" Emmett Turlow joined in, his politician's smile firmly in place. "We're here to advise the Alpha King on matters of importance. If there's a situation developing that affects his judgment, we have a duty to address it." "There is no situation," Louis said flatly. "Then you won't mind if we question the girl," Clyde said. "Just to clear the air, just to ensure she hasn't been using inappropriate methods to gain influence." Louis was on his feet before he could think, the chair scraping back with enough force to make everyone jump. "You will not touch her. You will not question her. You will not go anywhere near her. Am I understood?" The room went absolutely silent. Even Clyde looked taken aback by the raw fury in Louis's voice. "Alpha King," Laurent Doulin said carefully. "Your reaction is concerning. If there's nothing inappropriate happening, surely a simple conversation would clear everything up. There is nothing to clear up. Sarah Bonner made a mistake. She was exhausted and got lost. I chose to be merciful rather than cruel. That's all." "Then why do you visit the kitchens 3 times a day?" This from Emmett, his tone still mild but his eyes sharp. "Why have you adjusted her schedule personally? Why do you watch her like she's the only person in the room?" "Because she is," Louis thought. "Because when I'm near her, Everything else fades to background noise, because my wolf recognizes her in a way I can't explain or control. My personal attention is my own to give, he said instead. Not when it compromises the kingdom, Clyde said. Not when it makes you refuse alliances we need. Not when it puts a nobody servant in a position of influence she has no right to hold. Louis moved around the table with predatory grace, stopping directly in front of Clyde's chair. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper, but every person in the room heard it clearly. If you or anyone else in this council does anything to harm Sarah Bonner, if you question her, or threaten her, or so much as look at her wrong, I will consider it a personal attack, and I will respond accordingly. Do you understand me? Clyde's face went pale, but he didn't back down. You're proving my point. You're compromised, and the kingdom deserves better. The kingdom has me, and I decide what it deserves. Louis stepped back, his eyes sweeping the room. This discussion is over. The answer to any alliance with the Cross family is no. If anyone has a problem with that, they're welcome to bring it up again, once. He left the council chamber before anyone could respond, Rufus falling into step beside him. Neither spoke until they were well away from listening ears. That was a disaster, Rufus said quietly. I know. They'll use this. Clyde will make sure everyone knows the Alpha King refused a political alliance because of a servant girl. I know that too. And you're still not going to stop seeing her. It wasn't a question. Louis didn't answer it anyway, because the truth was simple and terrible. He couldn't stop. His wolf wouldn't let him. Every instinct he possessed demanded he find Sarah, ensure she was safe, keep her close where no one could threaten her. The bond had awakened, and there was no putting it back to sleep. Sarah heard about the council meeting before dinner. The whispers had graduated to open discussion. Servants huddled in corners, their voices rising and falling with speculation and gossip. The Alpha King had defended her. The Alpha King had refused an alliance because of her. The Alpha King had threatened the council on her behalf. She wanted to hide, wanted to disappear into the walls and never be seen again. Instead, she finished her work in the kitchens with shaking hands and headed toward the servants' quarters, her mind racing. This was exactly what Lorena Cross had warned her about. This was why nobles didn't notice servants, because attention from the powerful was always dangerous, always complicated, always ended badly for the person with less power. She needed to leave, needed to pack her few belongings and disappear before this situation destroyed her completely. But where would she go? She had no family, no other position waiting, no money saved. Leaving meant starving on the streets, which was just a slower form of destruction. Sarah was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't notice the man until he stepped directly into her path. Clyde Cross. He was tall and handsome in that cold, aristocratic way. His smile was pleasant. His eyes were not. Sarah Bonner, he said. I've been hoping for a chance to speak with you privately. Every instinct Sarah possessed screamed danger. She took a step back. I'm sorry, Lord Cross, but I need to return to my quarters. This will only take a moment. He moved closer, not quite touching her, but close enough that she was trapped between him and the wall. I'm curious about your relationship with the Alpha King. I don't have a relationship with the Alpha King. No? He seems to think differently. He refused a very advantageous marriage proposal today. Because of you. Sarah's stomach dropped. That's not I never asked him to. I'm sure you didn't. You seem like a smart girl. Smart enough to know when you're out of your depth. Clyde's smile widened slightly. So let me be very clear. Whatever you think is happening between you and the Alpha King, it's temporary. He'll tire of you eventually. And when he does, you'll have made enemies of every noble family in this kingdom. I'm not trying to. I don't care what you're trying to do. I care about what's actually happening. And what's happening is that you're a distraction the kingdom can't afford. He leaned in, his voice dropping. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. Tonight. We'll make it look voluntary. You'll get a generous settlement, a recommendation to another household, a chance to start over somewhere the Alpha King won't find you. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. And if I refuse, then I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you are. A manipulative little climber who seduced the Alpha King for personal gain, who used her body to influence policy, who endangered the kingdom's stability for her own benefit. Clyde straightened, his expression pleasant again. It won't matter if it's true. Reputation is everything, Sarah, and yours will be destroyed. He walked away before she could respond, leaving Sarah alone in the corridor, her entire body shaking with rage and fear and helplessness. She could leave, should leave. It would be the smart choice, the safe choice. But as she stood there, breathing hard and blinking back tears, Sarah realized something fundamental. She didn't want to leave, didn't want to run, didn't want to let these people dictate her life just because they could. And more than that, she trusted Louis. Trusted that when he'd told Clyde Cross to stay away from her, he'd meant it. Trusted that his protection wasn't just empty words, which was either incredibly brave or unbelievably foolish. Sarah was about to find out which. Louis found her 20 minutes later. He'd been searching the residence with increasing urgency, his wolf pacing restlessly, demanding he find their mate and ensure her safety. When he finally caught her scent near the servants' quarters, relief flooded through him so intensely it left him momentarily breathless. Sarah stood in an alcove, her back pressed against the wall, her arms wrapped around herself. She looked up when she heard his approach, and the expression on her face made something in his chest crack. Fear, exhaustion, determination, and underneath it all, something that looked almost like hope. Sarah. He stopped a few feet away, giving her space. "Are you all right?" She laughed, the sound broken and slightly hysterical. No, I'm really not all right." "What happened?" "Everything. The council meeting. The rumors. Clyde Cross cornering me and threatening to destroy my reputation if I don't leave." She pushed off the wall, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. This is why people like me don't get noticed by people like you." Louis took a step closer. "People like me? Powerful, important, able to ruin lives with a word." She wrapped her arms tighter around herself. "You defended me today, in front of the entire council. Do you have any idea what that did?" "I protected what's mine." The words came out before he could stop them. Sarah's eyes widened. "What's yours?" she repeated softly. "I'm not yours. I'm nobody. I fell asleep in your bed by accident, and now my entire life is falling apart because of it." "It wasn't an accident." "Of course it was. Not the sleeping, the bond." Louis closed the distance between them, moving slowly, giving her every opportunity to step away. She didn't. "When I found you in my bed, something happened, something I've never felt before. Recognition, claim, mine." Sarah's breath caught. "You're saying..." "I'm saying you're my mate, and I'm yours, and neither of us had any choice in it." He stopped just close enough that he could feel her warmth, smell her scent, see the pulse jumping in her throat. "I didn't plan this. I didn't want to want you, but the bond doesn't care about plans or politics or what's convenient. This is insane." "I know. You're the Alpha King. I'm a servant. This will never work. I know that too." "Then why?" Her voice broke. "Why are you doing this? Why didn't you just let me go?" Louis lifted his hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. "Because the bond won't let me. Because my wolf chose you before I understood what was happening. Because when I look at you, everything else fades to background noise." "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I. You're the Alpha King. You're not supposed to be scared." "I'm terrified. Because losing you would break something in me that I didn't even know could break." His other hand came up to frame her face, holding her gently but firmly. "But I'm more terrified of not trying, of letting fear dictate my choices, of losing you because I was too much of a coward to fight for what's mine." Sarah's hands came up to grip his wrists, not pulling away, just holding on. "What happens now? Now I claim you properly, in front of the court, in front of the council, in front of everyone who thinks they have a say in my life." His eyes held hers, gold burning through brown. "But only if you want me to. Only if you choose this." knowing how dangerous and complicated and difficult it will be. She should say no. She should be smart and safe and practical. Should walk away before this destroyed them both. But standing there in his arms, feeling the warmth of his skin and the intensity of his gaze, Sarah realized she'd already made her choice. She'd made it the moment she'd woken in his bed and felt safe for the first time in her life. "Yes," she breathed. "I choose this. I choose you." Louis's eyes flared bright gold. Then he lowered his head and kissed her, and Sarah's entire world narrowed to the sensation of his mouth on hers, demanding and gentle, and absolutely claiming. The bond surged between them, recognizing, completing, sealing, and in that moment, Sarah knew there was no going back. For better or worse, she belonged to the Alpha King, and he belonged to her. Louis didn't sleep that night either, but this time, Sarah was with him. They sat in his chambers, the same space where this had all begun, but everything felt different now. Sarah curled in one of the leather chairs near the fireplace, wrapped in a blanket Louis had insisted she take. He sat across from her, watching the firelight play across her features, still trying to process what he'd done. He'd kissed her, claimed her, made a promise in front of the universe that he couldn't take back, and his wolf had never been more content. "Tell me about your family," Louis said quietly. Sarah's hands tightened on the blanket. "There's not much to tell. My parents died when I was young. Fever took them both within a week. I've been working in noble households since I was old enough to be useful. No siblings? No other relatives? None that claimed me." Her voice was matter of fact, but Louis heard the old hurt underneath it. "I learned early that I was on my own, that the only person I could rely on was myself. You're not alone anymore." She looked at him then, her eyes searching his face for something. Truth, maybe, or proof that this wasn't just another cruelty disguised as kindness. "You say that now. But tomorrow, when you face the council, when you see what refusing the Cross Alliance costs you, nothing costs more than losing you." The words hung in the air between them. Sarah's breath caught. "You barely know me," she said softly. "I know enough. I know you work until you collapse. I know you apologize for things that aren't your fault. I know you're terrified but still chose to stay." Louis leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "I know that when I found you in my bed, my wolf recognized something in you that I'm still trying to understand. But I'm willing to learn, if you'll let me." Sarah was quiet for a long moment, studying him in the firelight. Then she said, "What happens tomorrow? Tomorrow I make this official. I'll announce to the court that you're under my protection, that any threat to you is a threat to me." His jaw tightened. "There will be opposition. Lorena Cross will be furious. Clyde will see it as weakness, but they'll learn to accept it, or they'll learn what happens when they challenge me. You're willing to fight your entire court for me? I'm willing to fight anyone for you. Why?" The question came out almost desperate. "I still don't understand why. What is it about me that made your wolf claim me? I'm nothing special. I'm not beautiful or clever or—" "Stop." Louis stood and crossed to her chair, kneeling so they were at eye level. "You are everything those women aren't. You're genuine. You're kind without expecting reward. You're strong in ways they'll never understand. And when I look at you, I see someone who's survived more than they ever had to face." Sarah's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I'm scared this is a dream, that I'll wake up and none of this will be real." "It's real." He took her hand, pressing it against his chest where his heart pounded. "Feel that? That's real. The bond is real. What I feel when I look at you is real." "What do you feel?" Louis considered the question carefully. He'd never been good with emotions, had always preferred action to words. But Sarah deserved honesty, even if it made him vulnerable. Protective, possessive, desperate to keep you close and safe. He paused, then added, "Complete." Like something I didn't know was missing, suddenly clicked into place. Sarah's free hand came up to cup his face, her touch gentle and exploring. "I felt safe in your bed. That first night, Even before I knew where I was, I felt safer than I have in years. I thought I was going crazy. You weren't crazy. You were exactly where you belonged. She leaned forward until their foreheads touched, her breath warm against his skin. They stayed like that for long moments, not kissing, just existing in the same space, learning each other's rhythms, letting the bond settle between them like a living thing. "Tell me something about you," Sarah whispered. "Something no one else knows." Louis thought about deflecting, about maintaining the careful distance he kept between himself and everyone else. But if he was asking Sarah to trust him with her life, he owed her the same vulnerability. "I'm lonely," he said quietly. "I have advisors and guards and council members, but I haven't had a genuine connection with anyone in years. I've been so focused on being strong and controlled and perfect that I forgot what it felt like to just be." Sarah's hand slid to the back of his neck, her fingers threading through his hair. "You don't have to be perfect with me. That might be the most dangerous thing you've ever said." "Why?" "Because I've spent my entire life maintaining control. If I let go with you, I'm not sure I'll be able to stop." Her eyes darkened with something that made his wolf surge forward. "Maybe I don't want you to stop." The air between them thickened with heat. Louis felt his control fracturing, the careful restraint he'd maintained for days crumbling under the weight of her touch and the bond pulling them together. "Sarah," he said, his voice rough, "if you keep looking at me like that—" "Like what?" "Like you want me to kiss you again." "Maybe I do." Louis growled low in his throat, the sound more wolf than man. "We should be careful. We should take this slow. Give you time to adjust to everything that's happened. I've spent my entire life being careful." Sarah's fingers tightened in his hair, pulling him closer. "I don't want to be careful anymore." That was all the permission Louis needed. He surged forward, claiming her mouth with a hunger that had been building for days. Sarah gasped against his lips, then melted into him, her body molding to his, as if they'd done this 1,000 times before. The kiss was nothing like their first one. That had been a claiming, a promise. This was exploration, discovery, the bond humming between them, urging them closer, deeper, more. Louis lifted her from the chair without breaking the kiss, carrying her to the bed where this had all started. He laid her down gently, following her onto the mattress, caging her body with his, but keeping most of his weight on his arms. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against her lips. "Tell me if this is too much." "Don't stop." Sarah's hand slid under his shirt, her touch leaving trails of fire on his skin. "Please don't stop." They moved together slowly, learning each other through touch and breath and whispered words. Louis mapped every curve of her body, every place that made her gasp or arch into him. Sarah explored the planes of his chest and back, discovering the scars he'd earned in battle and the places where his control frayed under her fingers. They didn't rush, didn't tear at clothing or lose themselves in mindless passion. Instead, they savored every moment, every sensation, building the heat between them slowly until it became almost unbearable. Louis kissed down her throat, feeling her pulse race under his lips. His hands roamed over her body, learning the shape of her through the fabric of her dress. When he found the laces at her back, he paused. "Sarah," his voice was barely controlled, "if we do this, there's no going back. The bond will complete. You'll be mine in every way that matters." She looked up at him with eyes that held no fear, only certainty. "I'm already yours. This just makes it official." Louis pulled her up, turning her so he could access the laces. His fingers trembled slightly as he loosened them, the dress falling away to reveal pale skin and soft curves that made his wolf howl with possessive satisfaction. Sarah turned back to him, her hands going to his shirt. She pulled it over his head, then paused, her eyes traveling over his chest and shoulders. "You're beautiful. Men aren't beautiful. You are." She leaned forward, pressing her lips to a scar near his collarbone. "Every part of you." Louis lost the last shreds of his control. He pulled her close, skin against skin, the sensation overwhelming and perfect and right. They fell back onto the bed together, hands exploring, mouths seeking, bodies learning the ancient rhythm that had existed since the first mating bond formed. When Louis finally claimed her completely, Sarah cried out his name, her nails digging into his shoulders as pleasure swept through them both. The bond snapped fully into place, locking them together in a way that transcended the physical. Louis felt her emotions flooding through their connection, wonder, pleasure, joy, fear, love, all of it mixing with his own until he couldn't tell where he ended and she began. They moved together, slow and deep and perfect, building toward a peak that felt like it would shatter them both. When it finally crested, Louis buried his face in Sarah's neck, feeling her pulse against his lips as she trembled beneath him. "Mine," he growled, the word pulled from somewhere primal and possessive. "Always mine." "Yours," Sarah breathed. "Always yours." The bond sealed completely, permanent and unbreakable. And in that moment, Louis knew he would burn the entire kingdom to ashes before he let anyone take her from him. They lay tangled together afterward, Sarah's head on Louis's chest, his hand stroking slowly through her hair. The fire had burned low, casting the room in warm shadows. Neither spoke for a long time, content just to exist in the peaceful aftermath. "The court will lose their minds tomorrow," Sarah finally said. "Probably. Clyde Cross will try to use this against you." "Definitely. And you still think this is a good idea?" Louis pulled her closer, pressing his lips to the top of her head. "I think this is the only idea that matters. Everything else is just politics and positioning and games I'm tired of playing." Sarah traced patterns on his chest, her touch absent and soothing. "What happens to me if something happens to you? Nothing's going to happen to me. But if it does, then you'll still be protected. I'll make arrangements, write it into law if I have to. You're mine, Sarah. That means something. It means everything." He tilted her face up to his. "But nothing's going to happen to me. I'm too stubborn to die now that I've finally found something worth living for." She smiled, small and tentative. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone colder, more distant. You're the Alpha King. I thought you'd be, I don't know, less human. I'm very human, especially around you." He kissed her softly, savoring the taste of her lips. "You make me want to be human instead of just a king. I like that." "Good. Because I don't think I can go back to who I was before I found you in my bed." Sarah's expression sobered. "Are you sure about this? Really sure? Because once we walk out that door tomorrow, there's no taking it back." "I've never been more sure of anything." Louis rolled them so he was looking down at her, his body caging hers in a way that was protective rather than threatening. "You're my mate, my choice, my future. And I will face down anyone who tries to change that. Even your council? Even my council? Even your allies? I'll make new allies. Even." He kissed her before she could finish the question, pouring every ounce of certainty he felt into the connection between them. When he finally pulled back, Sarah was breathless and flushed and looking at him like he'd hung the stars. "I'm yours," Louis said simply. "Completely and without reservation. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. Together. 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 They fell asleep wrapped around each other, the bond humming contentedly between them. And for the first time in years, Louis slept deeply and dreamlessly, secure in the knowledge that he'd finally found what he hadn't known he'd been searching for. Morning came too quickly. Sarah woke to find herself alone in the massive bed, panic spiking through her chest before she caught Louis' scent and heard water running in the adjoining bathing room. She sat up, pulling the sheet around herself, and took in the chamber in daylight. It looked different than it had in darkness and firelight. More real, more permanent. Evidence of their night together scattered across the floor, her dress, his shirt, the blanket that had fallen from the chair. This was really happening. She was really here, in the Alpha King's bed, wearing his mark on her skin and carrying his bond in her soul. The terror that thought should have brought was strangely absent. Instead, Sarah felt calm, certain, ready for whatever came next. Louis emerged from the bathing room wearing fresh clothes, his hair still damp. When he saw her awake, His expression softened into something that made her chest ache. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning." Sarah clutched the sheet tighter. "What time is it?" "Early, but we need to talk before the court gathers." He crossed to the bed, sitting on the edge, and taking her hand. "Today's going to be difficult. People will say things, do things, that are meant to hurt you, meant to drive a wedge between us. I know. I need you to trust me, to trust that I won't let them hurt you, to trust that this is real and permanent and worth fighting for." Sarah turned her hand in his, lacing their fingers together. "I trust you. Even when Clyde Cross stands up and accuses you of being a manipulative climber, even then. Even when Lorena Cross spreads rumors that you seduced me for power, even then. Even when half the court treats you like you're beneath their notice." Sarah squeezed his hand. "Louis, I've spent my entire life being treated like I'm beneath notice. I've survived worse than anything your court can throw at me." She met his eyes steadily. "The difference is that now I have someone who sees me, who values me, who's willing to stand beside me instead of in front of me." Louis pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "I'm going to make this official today, in front of everyone. Are you ready for that?" "No, but I'll do it anyway." He laughed, the sound surprised and genuine. "That's my mate, terrified but brave." Sarah dressed in her own quarters with Miranda Bonner's help, the older woman's silence more telling than words. Everyone knew by now. The Alpha King's guards had escorted Sarah from his chambers at dawn, making no effort to hide where she'd been or what it meant. "You're in for a rough day," Miranda said finally, lacing Sarah's dress. "The nobles are circling like sharks. I know, but the Alpha King chose you. That counts for something. Does it?" Sarah met Miranda's eyes in the mirror. "Or does it just paint a bigger target on my back?" "Both." Miranda finished the laces and stepped back. "But for what it's worth, I think you're braver than half those painted ladies in the Great Hall. They wouldn't survive a day doing what you do, and they certainly wouldn't survive what you're about to face." Sarah took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Save it for when you're still standing at the end of the day." The Great Hall was packed. Word had spread fast. Every noble family with any claim to importance had sent representatives. Servants lined the walls, drawn by gossip and curiosity. Even members of the guard had found excuses to be present. Everyone wanted to see what the Alpha King would do about his scandal. Sarah stood beside Louis at the front of the hall, her hand in his, very aware of every eye fixed on them. Whispers filled the space like smoke, rising and falling in waves. Clyde Cross stood near the front with Lorena beside him, both wearing expressions of carefully controlled fury. Emmett Turlow watched with calculating interest. Rufus McGraw stood to Louis's left, his stance protective and ready. Louis waited until the hall fell silent. Then he spoke, his voice carrying easily across the space. "I've called you here to make an announcement." He paused, his hand tightening on Sarah's. "As of last night, Sarah Bonner is my acknowledged mate. She is under my protection, with all the rights and privileges that entails. Any threat to her is a threat to me. Any insult to her is an insult to me. She is mine, and I am hers." The hall erupted. Nobles shouted over each other, their voices rising in protest and disbelief. Servants gasped and whispered frantically. Clyde Cross looked like he wanted to charge the platform. Louis let them rage for exactly 30 seconds. Then his power surged outward, filling the hall with an authority that made everyone fall silent. "I am not asking for your approval," he said, his voice cold and absolute. "I am informing you of a fact. The mate bond has formed. It is complete and unbreakable. Anyone who has a problem with that is welcome to leave my service." "This is madness," Clyde said, his voice shaking with barely controlled anger. "She's a nobody, a servant. You can't possibly—" "I can, and I have." Louis's eyes swept the room. "Sarah is now second only to me in authority. Her word is my word. Her safety is my priority, and anyone who forgets that will learn why it's unwise to challenge an Alpha King." Lorena Cross stepped forward, her beautiful face twisted with fury. What about our alliance? Our families have been negotiating for months. The negotiations are over. There will be no alliance. Because of her, Lorena pointed at Sarah, her voice dripping with venom. You're destroying centuries of tradition because some servant girl spread her legs? Louis moved so fast, Sarah barely saw it. One moment he was beside her. The next he had Lorena by the throat, lifting her until her feet dangled off the ground. Say one more word about my mate, he growled, his eyes blazing gold. And tradition won't save you. The hall went deadly silent. Even Clyde looked shocked. Louis held Lorena there for 3 heartbeats, then dropped her. She collapsed to the floor, gasping and clutching her throat. Does anyone else have questions? Louis asked mildly. No one spoke. No one even moved. Good. He returned to Sarah's side, taking her hand again as if nothing had happened. Sarah and I will be holding a formal bonding ceremony in 3 days. You're all invited to attend and witness. Until then, she'll be moving into the royal chambers permanently. Any concerns or complaints can be directed to me personally. He led Sarah from the hall, his stride confident and unhurried. Behind them, chaos erupted again, but he didn't look back. They made it to his chambers before Sarah's knees buckled. Louis caught her, holding her up as she shook. She couldn't finish the sentence. Necessary. Louis guided her to a chair. They needed to see that I meant it. That you're not a temporary distraction or a political weakness. You're permanent. You nearly killed Lorena Cross. I should have killed her for what she said about you. His jaw tightened. But Rufus is right. I need to be strategic, not just reactive. Sarah looked up at him, this powerful man who'd just faced down his entire court for her. What happens now? Now we prepare. The bonding ceremony will formalize everything, make it impossible for anyone to challenge your position. He knelt before her chair. But Sarah, you need to understand. This doesn't end. The threats, the rumors, the attempts to undermine us. It's going to be constant, I know. And you're still willing to stay? Sarah cupped his face, her thumb brushing across his cheekbone. I'm not just willing, I'm choosing to. Every day, for the rest of my life, I'm choosing you. Louis closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. He laughed, opening his eyes to look at her. I love you. I know it's fast. I know it's probably the bond talking, but I love you. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. I love you too. Even though you're terrifying and stubborn and apparently willing to start wars over me, especially because of that last part. They sat together in the quiet aftermath, the bond humming contentedly between them. Outside, the court was probably still raging. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But for now, in this moment, they had each other, and that was enough. 3 days passed in a blur of preparation and tension. Sarah moved into the royal chambers officially, her few belongings looking lost in the massive space until Louis ordered furniture and decorations that reflected her taste. He consulted her on everything, making it clear this was their space now, not just his. The court adjusted slowly. Some nobles accepted the situation with grace. Others made their displeasure known through whispered insults and deliberate snubs. Sarah learned to navigate both with a dignity that surprised even herself. Miranda Bonner became an unexpected ally, teaching Sarah the subtle politics of court life. Rufus McGraw offered quiet support, his presence a buffer against the worst of the hostility. Even Harlan McGraw, who'd initially seemed disapproving, softened when he saw how happy Louis was. But threats remained. Clyde Cross hadn't accepted defeat. Lorena nursed her wounded pride and plotted revenge, and rumors continued to spread, painting Sarah as everything from a manipulative seductress to a witch who'd ensorcelled the Alpha King. Louis handled each threat with calculated precision, making examples of those who crossed certain lines while showing mercy to those who simply needed time to adjust. His reputation as a fair but ruthless leader only grew stronger. The night before the bonding ceremony, Sarah stood at the window of their chamber, staring out at the grounds below. The moon was full, painting everything in silver light. Tomorrow, in front of everyone, she would be bound to Louis permanently. She should be terrified. Should be second-guessing this choice that had happened so fast and changed everything. Instead, she felt peaceful. Ready. Arms wrapped around her from behind, Louis's chin resting on top of her head. Nervous? A little, but not about us. About whether I'll remember all the ceremonial words. He laughed softly. Even if you mess them up, it won't matter. The bond's already complete. Tomorrow is just making it official for everyone else. Sarah turned in his arms, looking up at him. Do you regret it? Choosing me over political alliances and stability? Never. Louis cupped her face. The kingdom is stronger with you beside me. I'm stronger with you beside me. And anyone who can't see that isn't worth my time. Rufus says Clyde Cross is planning something. Some kind of protest during the ceremony. Let him plan. Whatever he does, it won't change anything. Louis's expression hardened. I've been too patient with the Cross family, too willing to overlook their challenges. That ends tomorrow. After the ceremony, I'm restructuring the council. Clyde will find himself with significantly less influence. Won't that cause problems? It'll cause the right kind of problems. The kind that remind everyone who actually holds power. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. You're teaching me something, Sarah. You're teaching me that strength isn't just about maintaining control. It's about knowing what's worth fighting for. I'm not that wise. You're wiser than you think. You survived years of being invisible, being overlooked, being treated as less than. And you did it without becoming bitter or cruel. That takes a strength most people never develop. Sarah rose on her toes, kissing him softly. I love you. I love you too. He deepened the kiss, his hands sliding down her back. Now come to bed. You need rest before tomorrow. They moved together in the darkness, their bodies speaking a language older than words. Louis made love to her slowly, reverently, as if she were something precious he couldn't quite believe he got to keep. Afterward, they lay tangled together, Sarah's head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow into the rhythm of sleep. Louis, she whispered. Thank you. For what? For not looking away. That first night, when you found me in your bed, you could have. You could have woken me and sent me away and forgotten I existed. But you didn't. You watched, and it changed everything. His arms tightened around her. I couldn't look away, even if I'd wanted to, which I didn't. You were too peaceful, too perfect in that moment. My wolf wouldn't let me disturb you. Your wolf knew before you did. My wolf knew what I was too stubborn to admit, that I'd been waiting for you without realizing it. That everything I'd built, all the power and control and perfection, was just me marking time until I found something real. Sarah pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his heart. I'm glad you found me. I'm glad you fell asleep in my bed. They drifted into sleep together, the bond glowing warm and steady between them. The bonding ceremony was held in the Great Hall at noon, with every noble family in attendance. The space had been transformed, decorated with winter flowers and silver fabric that caught the light beautifully. Sarah wore a dress Louis had commissioned for her, deep blue silk that brought out the warmth in her skin. Pearls had been woven through her hair, and she wore a necklace that marked her as Louis's mate, his second, his chosen. She looked like she belonged there. And maybe, finally, she was starting to believe it. The ceremony itself was ancient, the words worn smooth by centuries of repetition. Louis spoke his vows clearly, his eyes never leaving Sarah's face. She responded in kind, her voice steady despite the hundreds of people watching. When they came to the final binding, Louis took her hands. Before everyone here, I claim you as mine, he said. My mate, my equal, my heart. Before everyone here, I claim you as mine, Sarah replied. My mate, my equal, my future. Their hands glowed briefly as the bond surged, visible to everyone present. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The mate bond, manifesting physically, was rare enough to be legendary, and then it was done. They were bound, officially and permanently, in every way that mattered. The hall erupted in applause, genuine from some, forced from others, but no one dared remain silent. Louis pulled Sarah close and kissed her, making his claim unmistakable. The feast afterward was elaborate, with nobles vying for Louis's attention while subtly trying to assess Sarah's position and power. She handled them with a grace that surprised even herself, deflecting insults with polite neutrality and accepting genuine congratulations with warmth. Clyde Cross remained noticeably absent. Lorena attended but stayed as far from Sarah as possible, her eyes burning with barely suppressed fury. But neither caused the disruption Rufus had warned about. As the celebration wound down and guests began departing, Louis pulled Sarah aside. "Ready to escape?" he murmured. Desperately, they slipped away to their chambers, leaving Rufus to manage the remaining guests. The moment the door closed behind them, Louis pulled Sarah into his arms. "You were perfect," he said. "I was terrified. You didn't show it. You handled every challenge with grace and strength. I'm so proud of you." Sarah buried her face in his chest, breathing in his scent. "Is it always going to be like this? Walking on eggshells, watching for threats?" "For a while. But it'll get easier. People will adjust. And the ones who can't will find themselves on the outside looking in." He tilted her face up. "We're building something new here, Sarah. A court where power doesn't come solely from bloodlines and political marriages, where strength means more than connections. That's going to make you enemies. I already have enemies. At least now I have a reason to fight them that actually matters." They moved to the bed, the same bed where everything had started. Louis laid Sarah down gently, his hands already working at the laces of her dress. "I want you," he said simply. "Always, but especially now. After watching you stand beside me and claim me in front of everyone. Then take me." Sarah pulled him down. "I'm yours, completely." They came together with a desperation born from stress and relief, the ceremony behind them, the threats temporarily forgotten. Louis made love to her thoroughly, possessively, marking her skin with kisses and gentle bites that would fade by morning but felt permanent in the moment. When they finally collapsed together, both breathing hard and sated, Sarah felt something settle in her chest. Peace, certainty, belonging. "This is real," she whispered. "All of it. This is my life now." "Our life," Louis corrected. "Our future. Our choice." "Our choice," Sarah agreed. And for the first time in her life, she didn't doubt that she was exactly where she was meant to be. 6 months later, the kingdom had adjusted. Not everyone accepted Sarah gracefully. Some nobles still whispered behind her back. Lorena Cross had left court entirely, unable to stomach the reality of Sarah's position, and Clyde maintained a cold civility that fooled no one. But Sarah had also found allies. Miranda remained a steady presence. Rufus treated her like a younger sister. Even Harlan had warmed to her, appreciating her practical approach to problems. The council had been restructured as Louis promised. Clyde's influence had diminished significantly. New faces had joined, people who valued merit over bloodlines. The kingdom ran more efficiently, decisions made faster and more fairly. And Louis. Louis was different, calmer, more present. The cold, distant king had thawed into something warmer without losing any of his strength. "You're thinking loud again," he said, pulling Sarah from her thoughts. They were in their chambers, Sarah reading while Louis worked through reports. Or rather, they were supposed to be working. Instead, Louis kept getting distracted, watching her with that same intensity he'd had the night he'd found her in his bed. "I was just thinking about how much has changed," Sarah said. "For the better? Definitely for the better." Louis set aside his work and pulled Sarah into his lap. She went willingly, settling against him with the ease of long familiarity. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Choosing this life? It's harder than anything you faced as a servant. It's different. But no, I don't regret it." Sarah traced patterns on his chest. "Yes, there are threats. Yes, some people will always resent me. But I'm seen now. Valued, loved, that's worth all the rest." "I'm planning to expand your authority," Louis said. "Give you official oversight of certain territories. Make your position unquestionable. That'll make more enemies. Let them come. I'm done playing politics with people who refuse to see your worth. His arms tightened around her. You're my mate, my queen in all but name, and I want the entire kingdom to acknowledge that. Sarah kissed him softly. Just don't start any wars on my behalf. I make no promises. They stayed like that as the sun set, wrapped around each other, the bond humming contentedly between them. Outside, the kingdom adjusted and evolved. Inside their chambers, they were simply Louis and Sarah, two people who'd found something neither had expected, but both needed. What had awakened that night could never be put back. The bond, the love, the recognition. It was permanent, unbreakable, perfect in its imperfection. And neither of them would have it any other way. 1 year after the bonding ceremony, Sarah stood in the council chamber, presenting her first major policy proposal. Louis sat at the head of the table, watching her with obvious pride. She'd come a long way from the exhausted servant who'd fallen asleep in the wrong bed. Now she spoke with authority, commanded respect, and held her own against nobles who'd once looked through her like she was invisible. The proposal passed unanimously. Even Clyde Cross voted in favor, though his expression suggested it physically pained him. As the council dispersed, Rufus approached Sarah. "Well done," he said. "That was masterfully presented. Thank you. I'm still learning. We're all still learning. That's what makes this interesting." He glanced at Louis, who was deep in conversation with Harlan. "He's different, you know. Because of you. Better. He was already better than people gave him credit for. Maybe. But you brought out parts of him he'd buried. Made him remember how to be human instead of just a king." Rufus smiled. "For what it's worth, I'm glad that night happened. Glad you got lost. Glad you fell asleep where you did." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "Me too." That night, lying in bed with Louis, Sarah thought about how one moment could change everything. One mistake, one exhausted choice, one bed that was never meant for her. "What are you thinking about?" Louis asked, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her skin. "That first night, how terrified I was when I woke up and saw you watching me. You looked like you expected me to destroy you. I did. Instead, you saved me." She turned to face him. "You saw me when I'd spent years being invisible. You chose me when logic said you shouldn't. You protected me when it would have been easier to let me go. I couldn't let you go. My wolf wouldn't allow it." He kissed her forehead. "Best decision I never consciously made. I love you. I love you too. Forever." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, just as they had that first night. But now there was no fear, no uncertainty, just peace and certainty, and the unshakable knowledge that they'd found exactly what they needed in each other. Sarah had accidentally fallen asleep on the Alpha King's bed. He couldn't look away, and it had awakened something neither of them expected, something powerful and permanent and perfect. A bond that would last lifetimes, a love that conquered kingdoms, a choice that changed everything. If you love stories where tension simmers in the quiet moments, where power bends for true connection, where destiny awakens in the space between breath and heartbeat, you've found your home. This is Ariel Romance Library, where stories don't just entertain you, they claim you, they change you, they remind you why love is worth fighting for, even when the entire world stands against it. Subscribe. Share this story with someone who believes in second chances and unexpected bonds. And tell us where you're listening from, because every listener adds another thread to the community we're building here. Until the next story calls to you, stay wild, stay brave, and never stop believing in the power of connection.